Today we'll talk a bit about various levels of awareness and explain what Shaktipat Siddha Yoga is. Normal consciousness can be described like this, and when I say normal, I mean average ignorance. We have the outer world here, we have the ego, and the inner world. Most people are aware that they have an inner world, but some are not. They simply live in the outer world. But in general, people are aware that they have an inner world also. Now, then there's much talk about awakening. What is awakening? It's not enlightenment. Awakening is a state where this becomes a reality. You understand that there is a self, that is your true self, and it lies beyond the inner world. You get a sense that there is an I, which is really you, I-ness, but you have not transcended that, and you're still very much identified with the ego. You just have an intuition that this is reality, but you haven't realized it as your true nature, as pure being. We can expand that a bit. We can look at it the other way around. The self first contracts into I-ness. I-ness then contracts into I am, when it begins to refer to itself as existence. That is where real ignorance takes place, because it generates I am this, I am that, and whatever the I considers itself to be. One is still very much identified with the ego, and this is only an abstract concept for one. The I-ness is also. But people can reach a level of I am fairly easily, and many mistake that for being enlightenment. It's not. We can expand that a bit more. We have the self contracted into I-ness that defines itself as something being, and it identifies with this and that and whatever. Now, a seeker seeks from the level of ego and tries to meditate in order to realize this down here, but because the person, the ego, does not have an experience of what it is, the meditator can go in all sorts of directions and may randomly have the good luck of having a glimpse of this. Now, this is all other yogas than Shaktipat Siddha Yoga. All other yogas but Siddha Yoga, by definition, begin in the ego. You may even, when you meditate, sit and contemplate the outer life and become engrossed in that. It's a distraction. Yoga, by the way, means union. It also means a path to that union. So when we speak of all other yogas in Shaktipat Siddha Yoga, we mean paths to realizing the self. Yoga here means path. Shaktipat Siddha Yoga operates in an entirely different way. It is the self that begins to meditate on the ego and transform the inner life and the ego. So you no longer meditate from the ego, identify with the ego, and try to realize something you have no inkling of what is, like over here. The Shakti, the pure dynamic energy, the creative potential of the self, begins to meditate on your ignorance and transform it. And any yoga that does that is by definition perfect yoga. Siddha means perfect. It is perfect yoga, Siddha Yoga. Siddha Yoga is normally initiated with Shaktipat, and we call our path Shaktipat Siddha Yoga. It has many names. Kundalini Yoga is another name. There are various other names, I forgot them. Doesn't matter. It's the principle that is interesting. Now, the Shakti down here contracts in I-ness, it then becomes Kundalini. Kundalini is not this down here, it exists on the I-ness level as a contraction. With Shaktipat, Kundalini awakens and begins to restructure the system that it originally built as you, up to and including the ego. Over here, we try to deconstruct and reconstruct these levels with our own will and our own practice and methods, and that is a very slow path compared to Shaktipat Siddha Yoga, because Kundalini has a blueprint of your ignorance and therefore knows what to do, when, and how in order to restructure your nervous system so it can uphold a state of enlightenment.